Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the STAR Center's Burnout webinar series. This is a follow-up series to the Burnout series that we put on last spring, and we are excited that you all are joining us for the second installment. It is a 6-part webinar series, and so it will continue from today all the way well into May, and so we are excited to go on this journey with you, and focusing on this very hot and important topic. I'm Suzanne Speer. I'm the Director of Workforce Development here at ACU, and I'm going to be your cruise director today. I'm going to be taking you through this first session. For the remaining sessions, we are going to have some guest speakers on the line, but today we're going to be focusing on several things, and I'm going to be with you and talking you through it. So for those of you who are new to the STAR Center and ACU, the Association of Clinicians for the Underserved, we are really workforce people, and we are focused on the recruitment and retention of a transdisciplinary team solving the issue of access to care in underserved areas. So we're really focused on 2 goals, and that is recruitment and retention. As you can see, there are a lot of things that we do, but we are here today really to focus on the work of the STAR Center. So the STAR Center is funded by the Bureau of Primary Health Care through HRSA, and we are a national cooperative agreement, and our national cooperative agreement is called the STAR Center, and that stands for Solutions, Training, and Assistance for Recruitment and Retention. And as you may know, there are 20 NCAs that the Bureau funds every year, and we're all focused on different areas that affect health centers and health center operations. And so we are one of 2 NCAs that focus on workforce, and CHC Inc. Out of Connecticut, they're the other one that focuses on workforce, and they focus on pipeline development. And so we are your one-stop shop on the recruitment and retention side. So we are excited to bring you these resources today, as well as many, many other resources on our website, clinicians.org, down at the bottom of your screen there on the left-hand side. And you can go and check out all of the resources that we have if you hadn't had a chance to. So as I mentioned, I'm Suzanne Speer, and I am a part of the STAR Center team, and I am not alone in the work that we do. I am joined by Allison Abesecra, and she is our VP of Training and Programs at ACU, and also by Mariah Blake. And Mariah is our program manager, and she is the one that keeps everything up and running, and a lot of times the technical questions that you guys have are answered by her. So we are, again, the 3 of us make up the core of our STAR Center team, and we are the ones that bring you all of the resources that we have on our website there. So just before we get started and dive into the content that we have today, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So we are recording these webinars. As you may know, if you have gone to our website on any occasion, you have probably seen that we have a whole library of webinars. So you can, if you miss something, you can go to our website and follow up there and check them out on YouTube. So at any time you can listen to these. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. You can put them in the questions box, and I will be answering questions at the end. And Mariah will also be monitoring the questions box as we go along, so feel free to ask any questions there. And in the meantime, I think that about does it for our housekeeping items. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our webinar. And just to remind you guys, if you do have any technical questions or you're having trouble connecting, contact Mariah at mblake@clinicians.org, and she'll get you pointed in the right direction. Okay, so as I mentioned a few minutes ago, this webinar is a first part of a 6-part series on burnout. And so our goals for this series are really threefold. So we'd really like to emphasize, number one, emphasize the importance of addressing burnout within your organization. And I know that a lot has been made over this in the past, and we just wanted to continue emphasizing the importance of addressing it at your organizational level. We're also going to be examining how different organizations approach burnout, and also from different perspectives. So we have, for our speakers for this series in the future, we have a physician, a nurse practitioner, as well as a nurse talking. So we're really going to get some varied approaches to addressing burnout, and also how folks approach it from a clinical aspect. And then finally, what you're probably all here for is to learn some strategies to address burnout. So that's the goals for the series. And the goals for today, as a part of this webinar here, is that we are going to be looking at the core components of a workforce plan. And we're going to be walking you guys through that and really introducing you to the concept of the core components. We're also going to be looking at an overview of how to create a positive and engaged culture, which in turn is going to ultimately reduce burnout within your organization. And then finally, as we wrap up today, we are going to go through an overview of the STAR Center's burnout tool. Okay, so when we think about what drives your organization, what do we normally think of? We think of people, right? Yeah, exactly. So, people are the fuel for your organizational workforce. And so that robust workforce is really the fuel for high quality patient care as we drive through the healthcare landscape. And it might be a little bit different at every organization, but every health center has some sort of energy powering their organizational efforts. So identifying and also replicating common features of a strong health center and a strong health center workforce will ensure that you can continue your journey with a full tank and not be empty like the one pictured here, no matter what the makeup of your organization. And as we go along and as we start to look at all of these, core components, I want you to realize that this can impact you no matter the size or the makeup of your organization. It really will apply universally. So don't worry if you are a small health center or a new health center or one that doesn't currently have all these things. We just want you all to identify and look at these as the fuel for your organization. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at our core components of a strong workforce plan. Are you ready? Buckle up, because here we go. Okay, so these 8 components are what we have identified at the STAR Center as the core components of a robust workforce plan and a robust health center working at full capacity here. So some of the core components include having a data-informed workforce plan. So this would be a written and frequently updated recruitment and retention plan that you have that's informed with data and using strategy. Also, an effective and an equitable and effective compensation structure. So are you looking at your compensation structure on a regular basis? And are you ensuring that it is both equitable and also effective in that it really is updated and it is also competitive when it comes to the other people in your area? Third, we have tested and recruitment and retention strategies that are really, again, documented, and you have data to support that. Fourth, we've got a chief workforce officer or some other C-suite level personnel that deals with all of the workforce issues at your organization. This is a health professions training program. And when we talk about health professions training programs, this is not necessarily the fact that you're a teaching health center or anything formalized, but are you precepting, nurse practitioner students or dental assistants or any other health profession in your organization? That can definitely be a core component of a robust workforce there at your health center. 6, we have policies that support diversity and cultural respect. And when we talk about cultural respect and diversity, we're talking about both within your organization and also how you relate to the populations that you are serving at your organization. 7th is a positive culture focused on engagement. And this is really having to do with how your employees and your staffers are interacting with each other and also within the organization. And lastly, high functioning managers. And as you can see there, there is a link to our core components overview that you can find on our website. So the slides are downloadable in the go-to section, right-hand section of your screen, and so it's in there in the handout. So you can check that out and hyperlink over to that overview of our core components. And again, this is a very high-level overview, and when you look at it, please don't get overwhelmed when you think about it. This is not something that people are going to solve in a day or even a month or even a year. It's really to get you thinking about all the different components of your health center when it comes to workforce. So pick one and start there. So speaking of picking one and starting there, today when we talk about burnout, we are going to be looking at the core component of having a positive culture focused on engagement. And so again, when we talk about having a positive culture focus on engagement, we are going to define that as focusing on a culture of two-way communication to continually improve the practice experience, reduce burnout, ding, 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 it is in there, and also support transdisciplinary teams in a consistent way. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about how you can focus on engagement, work through challenges, and then support clinicians in order to reduce burnout at your organization. So a positive culture focused on engagement is, yes, engaged, which means that it offers opportunities for two-way communication within roles and also as an organization. It is consistent. Your culture is consistent. So everyone at your organization, no matter whether or not, whatever their role is, they have the same cultural experience, and depending on what their site, who their manager is, it doesn't matter. It transcends all of that. A culture focused on engagement is also positive. So this means that your group is focused on wins, their progress, and how their work is creating something positive in the world, despite the challenges and also the fatigue that they might be facing on a daily basis. Finally, a culture focused on engagement is transparent. So this means that everyone understands where they stand, how they're a part of the organizational goals, and also how important decisions are made. So when we talk about transparency, we're really thinking about how the leadership is communicating to the employees within the organization and how folks feel that. So if there's one of transparency, then, there's obviously some things that your leadership can't share, but really helping to engage and make sure that everybody on your team feels like that they really know what's going on, and also the reasons behind the decisions that are made at your organization. So these are obviously big cultural values, and As I mentioned before, these are things that can transcend health center size, leadership style, location, and also more. And, these 4 characteristics might look different at your organization, but they should definitely all be there. And if there's something that, again, should be all there, and if they're not, it's something to definitely look at improving within your organization. So as you're looking at these core components, and specifically about having an engaged culture, sometimes we get to be a little overwhelmed and say, all of these things like, which type of solutions are the right fit for our organization? What specific things should we try to improve it? How do I know if any of this is making a difference? And how does this all fit together, Suzanne? These are all legitimate concerns and also questions there. The best thing to do is just begin. As the saying goes, the hardest part is starting, and this is the case. This is true in this case as well. Being a part of this webinar is an example of that. You're starting, you're thinking about it, and you want to have some solutions to address your problems with burnout and engagement at your organization. By taking a PDSA approach, which is a plan, do, study, act approach, to any of these core components, and also the challenges that you might be facing in any of those 8 areas, you can examine those issues within your organization, plan for solutions, implement the solutions, and then study the results and act on them by making any necessary changes. Following this approach will help you be focused on the solutions you are trying to implement. And I'm sure that you have heard of PDSA, or Plan, Do, Study, Act, for various things within your organization, various problems, various solutions. And this can really apply here as you're looking at these core components and how you might be able to move the needle and move towards a well-fueled, robust workforce that is healthy and thriving at your organization. As a part of creating a focused and engaged culture, there are a lot of things that you can do from an organizational standpoint to reduce burnout. So today we are going to look at team support, how you can help the team succeed at your organization, setting up the physical space within your health center, and also supporting the clinicians within your organization. And what we are going to talk about today is really going to be a very high-level overview and also a preview for the rest of the series, when we'll have those industry experts that I referenced earlier, and they're clinicians, and we're going to do a deeper dive in how some of those folks approach their organizations, and those that aren't clinicians, how they are working within their organizations respectively to reduce burnout within their organization, and also how you can take these things and implement them at your organization, and really how you can start focusing on this important subject. So most teams are an important part of any organization, and as you have all heard, I'm sure, the saying, there is no I in team. Teams need each other to survive, and this is true within the healthcare organization as well. It doesn't just mean on the ball field. So most health centers have some sort of either patient-centered medical home or team-based care, and so this effort is really going to go a long way in creating a positive, engaging culture where folks are thriving at your health center organization. When people feel like they're a part of something larger, they tend to feel more engaged. So if they know that something that they are doing is furthering your mission, or the patient care, things like that, it's really going to give them the fuel that they need to really get out there and do their best every day. So what can we do to support our teams? First of all, have clearly defined roles. This tends to go along with a documented process and also having transparency. So you want to make sure that everybody on a team knows exactly what their role is. So everybody should get a written copy of this, and they should know exactly what their roles are within all of your processes. So that process might be a physical process, such as moving the patient along within their time there with you during their appointment. It might also be something when it comes to EMR. So who is supposed to be doing what when it comes to your EMR? And also having everybody just understand when things are supposed to be done. So having all those clearly defined roles, when things are supposed to be done, how they're supposed to be done, are really going to be something that supports your team and also sets them up to really feel like they're going to be successful. And also it makes folks feel positive because they know exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it. Secondly, you want to make sure that you are ensuring that you have input from everybody on your team. So if your clinical team involves a medical assistant, a nurse, such as an RN or an LPN, a provider, and even the front desk staff, make sure that everybody has input as far as their roles and the processes that you have for all of the things that you are working with on a daily basis there. If everybody has input and they feel like they're having input, not just lip service. If you're really listening to everybody on the team, everybody's going to feel more engaged and everybody is going to feel more positive about their work they're doing. And that's also going to make them want to give more. There are a lot of studies out there that go towards, and really talk about the efforts that people give and how engaged they are based on what type of input they feel like they have on their team. And so think about that when it comes to setting up your team and how it goes there. Third, make sure that all of these things, as far as your roles and also input, you do this on a regular basis. You want to make sure that you're having team meetings on a regular basis, on a formal basis. You also want to ensure that managers and staff have time to communicate on an informal basis as well. So, fostering and supporting environments where your whole team can communicate and interact with each other is really going to go a long way. It's going to go a long way in reducing burnout in your clinicians and also the rest of your entire team at your organization. If they feel like they know what's going on and they also have the ability to voice their concerns, gosh, your team is going to be just A+. It's going to be, high functioning and engaged, and it's really going to go a long way. Lastly, you want to make sure that you're adjusting the roles and also the processes as necessary. So if something isn't working, make sure that you are allowing time to have input from your team, say, hey, this isn't really working. And, it might be someone you least expect to come up with a workaround or a new process for something that you're working on within your organization. So give everybody a chance to have a voice and also make sure that you are doing that PDSA and really studying those things and also adjusting as you go along there. Secondly, we are going to talk about the physical space and how setting it up can support your team and also have an impact on the satisfaction and engagement of your employees. So we're going to look at how is your space set up? Does it allow for communication? And also, does your setup allow for maximum efficiency? So when we're talking about how is the space set up, do you have pods for your teams, Or do you have offices for your nursing staff and then your provider staff? How is it set up? Those things can really affect the way your teams communicate with each other. Now, everybody, there is no magic bullet. And when it comes to setting up a physical space, it's not easy, and it certainly can be costly. So you want to think about, if a complete rework of your space is not possible, think about how small adjustments can be made so that you can allow for open communication. If a nursing pod and a provider office or a provider pod is working for your teams, and that's great. It's going to be different for every organization. You want to make sure that you take all these different possible setups. So whether you have a pod that incorporates every single person on your team, or a pod that is really for each role in your organization, examine it and see if it works for you. If it's working, that's great. If everybody on your team feels engaged by having it be that way, and that's how folks are comfortable within your organization, that's great. But if it's not, then see how you can work around. And again, physical changes, taking down walls, that's not easy. So, see if there's anything you can do within your existing physical setup that you might be able to change it. And thirdly, again, if it's working, don't change it. Don't fix it if it's not broken, but make sure that you're open to changing things that aren't working for your organization. And lastly, you want to take a look at how your physical space is set up and how it is working from an efficiency standpoint. Are you allowing that efficiency to increase your productivity, or is it having a negative effect on your productivity? So, this is something that you might not think about when it comes to your teams and how, the physical space is set up. It can really have an effect on that. So if things aren't working really well, take a look at your physical space and how that might be affecting your efficiency, and how might changing your physical space around a little bit, how it might really affect your efficiency, which also is going to increase your employees' satisfaction and make them feel more engaged and positive when they come to work every day. Another way to create a positive and engaged workforce is to ensure that you are supporting your entire staff, both at work and outside of the working hours. This is especially true when it comes to the clinicians at your health centers. So we're going to take a look at several ways that you can support your clinicians and help them to be better engaged, and therefore hopefully reducing burnout within your organization for your clinicians. So first of all, we're going to take a look at work-life balance and how you can support your clinicians that way. So number one, flexible hours and flex schedules. So these are two things that 10 to 15 years ago, folks were just starting to whisper about. Nowadays, most every organization has this. And if you don't, I would very much encourage you to take a look at the way you're scheduling your clinical staff and how you might be able to offer them flexible hours and flexible scheduling. So whether it is you're having them work for 10-hour days or working, just part-time or three-quarter time, take a look at how you might be doing this. A lot of people, whether or not they're, if they're parents or if they're taking care of aging parents or other family members, they might need to have those flexible hours. They really want to work at your health center and they want to be the best possible clinician they can be, but offering them flexible hours really at the end of the day makes their work-life balance better. They feel better about their family life, they feel better about themselves, and they feel better about the work that they're doing within your organization. Similarly to flexible hours, take a look at your call schedule and how much call you're asking for your providers. Now, I know that within smaller organizations, this is a little bit trickier because there are not as many providers to spread the workload around. So you might only have 3 or 4 providers within your entire organization. So, look at maybe some alternate ways that you can go around your call that you're asking of your providers, and doing something such as a nurse line, nurse triage, that type of thing. So by the time the call gets to your clinical providers, your clinical staff, that it is really those true emergencies that need to be addressed, either in the health center or at an emergency facility nearby. Something else that can support work-life balance is either offering childcare credits or childcare, a supplement or a discount within an organization. Now, this might not be something that is, possible at every organization, but whether or not you're either in a very large area, large community or a small community, you might be able to partner with childcare organizations to either offer discounts or offer, like I said, some credits or some financial support to your employees that have as a benefit to them for those that have families with small children there. So all of these there, and again, there are so many other things that you could possibly do to support work-life balance, and listen to your clinical providers and what they are saying are their needs and what would make their lives better and also easier when it comes to their jobs and the life that they lead outside of their 9 to 5. So secondly, you can support your clinicians by offering a career path. So you want to think about different ways that you are going to be, supporting them in their careers. So are you offering them training? Are you offering them special projects? And are you offering them financial support to further that training or with special projects? So when it comes to special projects for your clinical providers, are you offering them opportunities for networking? So if there are not a whole lot of other clinical providers on staff, this is especially important. They need to talk to one another. Talk to each other about the challenges they're facing, their wins, their successes, the things that have been challenging for them, and really just a chance to talk to people and be with people who are just rowing in the same boat. I can't really say enough about that, and how far that can go to reduce burnout within an organization is just offering the providers a chance to talk to other people who understand what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, when it comes to special projects, think about those clinical providers that want to teach. There are a lot of providers out there that absolutely love to teach, and it's just something that is in their blood. They just love it and they want to do it. So is there a way that you can support that? Can you actually bring health professions students into your health center to do that? And if you can, great, wonderful. If you can't, that's okay. Is there a community college that they can teach at? Is there a university where they can teach? Think about all those different ways that they could have teaching opportunities and to really, quench their thirst for that aspect of their personalities there. And when it comes to teaching, how can you support them if they are being a preceptor? So think about that too. Also, lastly, when it comes to research, when it comes to special projects, we talk about research. So is there a thing within the medical community that they could do research on? So are they really interested in hepatitis and how that affects people and different things surrounding that particular subject? If they are, is there an opportunity that your health center can create a research opportunity within your health center? And if not, is there a way that you can support them in doing that outside of your 4 walls within your organization? Think about that. There are a lot of things that you can do to, supplement that. And for when it comes to research, there are a lot of things that can benefit your health center, and also with teaching too. All of these things can not only benefit your clinical provider and your clinical staff and reduce their burnout by engaging them, engaging their mind outside of caring for patients. All these things can possibly benefit your health center. So like I said, get creative, figure out ways that you can allow your clinicians to be satisfied both on a professional and personal level, and also how they can benefit your health center. So you would probably be surprised by the things that can do both. It is possible there. Financial support. So all of these things that I mentioned previously on the last couple of slides, they definitely take a little bit of money. They take some support when it comes to, doing things such as tuition. So with the professional association, there might be some tuition or money involved with that. So see if it's a possible benefit you could give your clinicians is the money to be a part of that association so they can network with their colleagues that are, doing the same things they are on a daily basis. Tuition. So are you offering them tuition reimbursement or just reimbursement to keep up with their certifications? That is a lot of you are offering that, and that is great. I would really encourage those that aren't to think about the ways that you can support your clinicians financially with their certification. And, like I said, most of you are, but if you're not, definitely think about how you can do that within your organization, create a benefit, and also just really make them feel engaged with their community. And also financial support for resources. So those resources might be things for research, or also, as I mentioned in the previous slide, teaching. So can you get financial resources to create either teaching health center or just to offer rotations to different health professions that your clinical providers are there to support and also teach and precept as they go along within your organization. So those are really things that you can do within your organization to create a more positive, engaged culture by creating a more positive, engaged clinician staff at your organization. And, again, we're going to go through a lot more of those things as we go throughout these next 5 weeks and these next 5 webinars. And we really hope that created a great overview for the things that we're going to be diving into over the next part of these series. As we wrap up today, we are going to take a look at some of a tool rather that the STAR Center has created and is available on our website. As you might know, we are focusing a lot of our resources at the STAR Center on this subject, and as I talk a little bit about at the beginning of this webinar. And so what we're going to do as we wrap up today is we are going to take a look at our burnout self-assessment tool and how you can use it as an organization to take a look at how you all are working towards a positive, engaged culture by looking at burnout within your organization. So the burnout assessment tool, if you haven't already had a chance to take a look at it, it really assesses burnout from an organizational standpoint. So as we have been talking about throughout today, and we're going to be talking about through our previous series and the rest of this series itself, we are taking a look at how you can address burnout from an organizational standpoint. There are a lot of things that you can, a lot of resources out there that talk about burnout from a personal perspective. And so we wanted to create something from a leadership and organizational perspective. This assessment tool is 7 questions, and it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes to complete. So it's a relatively quick tool. It's not something that's going to take a lot of time on your part, but it's going to really give you a snapshot about how you're working organizationally to address it within your organization. So this tool is going to help you to identify organizational strategies, as I mentioned, to reduce burnout and also increase provider satisfaction and also provider retention. So all of those things are focusing on that core component of your engaged culture. It's also going to give you a report with recommendations based on your input. So you're going to answer those 7 questions, and based on your input, it's going to give you a personalized report, and it's also going to tell you whether or not you are in the red zone, the yellow zone, or the green zone there. And based on what zone you're in, it's going to give you some feedback and also give you some additional resources there. And I will say that, you know, this is a great place to start. Listening to, being a part of this series, and then also going to our website at ch2workforce.org and taking this self-assessment is a great way to start working on this core component of creating a positive, engaged culture at your health center. So take a look at it there. We are certainly here to answer any questions that you might have when it comes to this tool or any of the other resources that you have. So take a look at it, take the self-assessment, and figure out a way that, you know, have it be a starting point when it comes to looking at burnout within your organization. So just as a preview of the rest of the series, as I mentioned, we have 5 more of these webinars, and they're going to be weekly on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we have a variety of different highly qualified speakers to talk about this important subject. So we've got folks talking about clinician experience with Dr. Eileen Barrett. Some of you may have heard of her before if you have been around the ACU group for too long. We also have Cheryl Fontabene with the National Nurse-Led Care Consortium. They're another NCA. She is going to be talking to us for 2 weeks as well, and she's going to be talking about high-performing teams and then also moving beyond burnout. We also have Cindy Barr, and she is with the High-Tech Center, and she's going to be talking about setting up the physical space. So I touched on it just a very tiny little bit, and she is going to be doing a whole hour on how you can set up your physical space to reduce burnout at your organization and also increase providers and overall staff satisfaction at your health center there. So again, we've got an action-packed series here, and I really hope that you will come back and join us next week, as well as the rest of the series, and talk to us about, or listen rather, as we talk to you guys about burnout and how you can really address it within your organization. So with that, I'm going to start taking questions, and I'm going to open up my questions box and take a look at any of your questions that you have here. So bear with me while I open my questions box and I look there. Okay, so first question is, can you speak on why we should focus on flexible hours for clinicians versus all staff? Wouldn't it be better to offer it for all? That's a great question. And yes, you should absolutely focus on your flexible scheduling for all staff. I apologize if I said if it was just for clinicians. I did not mean to give that impression. You know, start with your clinicians and then go from there. If you can do a job share for front office staff or any of your other parts of your medical team, then that is great. You might be able to find 2 people who can work 20 hours a week and they can work on the same days. And so that their patient panel is going to be the same. So yes, absolutely. I think you bring up a great point, Suzanne, there, and thank you for doing that. And again, apologies if I mentioned that just for clinicians. Again, start with clinicians and then focus on the rest of your team to see how the flexible scheduling can be a retention tool and also a recruitment tool there. So a lot of the things that we talk about when it comes to retention and combating burnout can also be wins and pluses for your recruitment category. So think about that as well. Okay. The next question here we have is, will the series cover the importance of mentoring or a mentoring program? One of our presenters may cover that a little bit, and if it's something that isn't covered specifically, we can certainly find some resources for you and get you those resources when it comes to mentoring, because I know that a lot of times when it comes to mentoring and also onboarding, we're not really going to touch specifically about onboarding. We have some other resources at the STAR Center that focus on onboarding and how that can really set you up for success and reduce burnout, but it's a great question there. So we have another statement and question that says they're in the process of doing some of the ideas that we had mentioned. One issue is getting everyone on the same page. So they mentioned that they would like to start with their C-suite, and they would like to see the complete presentation. And you can start with your handouts there, Sheila. So the handouts are available in the right-hand portion of your go-to toolbar, so you can download it there. And you can also go to our website the next day or so. The recording of this will be available, so you can play this webinar for them as well as the entire series. I know time is precious, especially when it comes to C-suite. So, you might want to start with listen to all of them and then figure out which parts that might hit home the best and be the best starting points with your leadership staff and start there. So yes, they will all of the handouts, all of the slides will be available, as well as all of the recordings from this series will be available for anything, any member of your staff or any other health centers you think might benefit from it. So I think that is all of the questions we had today. Just want to make sure that I haven't missed any here. And so I think that's it. So we are wrapping up just a smidge early today. If there are some questions that you didn't get answered, feel free to ask them, send them to us at info@chcworkforce.org, and we will do our best to answer them and get you the answer there. And again, just thank you so much for joining us today for this first part of the webinar series. Stay tuned next week when we have Dr. Eileen Barrett on the line talking to us some more about burnout. So you guys have a great afternoon. Thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.